What is an IUL account? This is an account that a lot of influencers on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are touting as an alternative, and a great alternative to create tax-free income to your 401k plan. The whole idea is you want to take control of your money, get it out of the government's hand, because let's face it, taxes are going up. So why put your money in a 401k and defer taxes till later? Yet when you put it in an IUL account, they say, pay the taxes now, take tax-free income during retirement, it'll solve all your problems. In this video, we're gonna go through all of this conversation. We're gonna dissect the good, the bad, the ugly of it. And at the end, you're gonna have a lot more clarity about what is an IUL account, is it right for you, and what other alternatives may be a good fit instead. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, that way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Let's go. What's going on, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and today we are talking about IUL accounts. It's always weird to say that for me because it's really not an account. I feel like a lot of people are positioning IUL policies, Index Universal Life Insurance policies, as IUL accounts because of the fact that they're trying to make them alternatives to 401ks. In fact, I didn't even realize this was happening on such a huge level because really, ultimately, I would never utilize this terminology, this phraseology of an IUL account. To me, that's not compliant. It's not accurate at all. But apparently, it's one of the top searched phrases around Index Universal Life that exists. And so I felt compelled and responsible to create a video, hopefully, focusing on actual education around what is Index Universal Life or what is an IUL account. And hopefully this video will give you clarity on what an IUL account is. Now, the idea, let's talk about this. I'm going to go to my board, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what is an IUL, how does it work, how is it sold, and give you the quick and accurate assessment of how it's sold and how it actually works, and maybe some of the little things that you need to be concerned about when you're going through that process. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here. So an IUL is simply, an IUL account is simply an IUL policy, not an account. So let's talk about the features of how it's sold. So first and foremost, we're talking about upside potential. It's sold on the idea of upside potential, downside protection, and it's sold with the idea of saying, hey, you're gonna do this through participation in an index. This could be the S&P 500, S&P 500. Pardon my bad handwriting there. S&P 500. It could be through a proprietary index. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is the idea and the story here is upside potential and downside protection through participation in an index. What is the idea? The idea is saying, all right, if we could cap you, in a situation, maybe there's a cap of 10 to 12%. The idea would say, all right, if you could imagine you could put your money in the S&P 500, okay? Would you be willing, and this is the sales pitch, would you be willing to say cap your returns at 12% if it meant you would have a 0% floor? Would you be willing to give up the 30% plus years? Would you be willing to give that up and cap yourself at 12% if you could eliminate the negative 20% years, right? So it's the idea of saying, all right, you're not gonna have the plus 30s, but we're gonna eliminate the negative 20s or negative 30s, negative 40s for that matter as well. We're gonna put you at 0%. Most people say, hey, if I could average, somewhere in the middle of this, and I would cap it at 12 if I had the protection of floor of 0%, right? A lot of people say that's a good deal. And so here's the thing with this. A lot of people say zero is your hero. Zero is your hero, meaning it's gonna protect you. Avoiding losses is just as important as is chasing and getting big returns. And from that perspective, I will agree. There is an element of truth in that. I'm going to get into why zero is not necessarily your hero, but here's the deal. On the other end, if zero is your hero, then the cap is the trap. And here's the deal. When you understand how this works and you understand how the levers of how caps and all the indexes work, you start to realize that you're not really in control of your money. The idea of how most of these policies are sold is they're an alternative to a 401k. So the idea is saying, why put your money in a 401k when taxes are going up? So if taxes are going up, why defer taxes now to pay taxes later in this account? Now, to that accord, I would agree. And so they would try to get you to transition and put your money not in a 401k, but put it into an IUL. And if that's the case, you have to realize that when you have your taxes going up, when you put your money in a 401k, the government is controlling your money. When you put your money in an IUL, you are giving up control of your money and you are giving it to an insurance company, right? And a lot of people would say, that's not a big deal. I don't mind giving my control of my money to an insurance company. Insurance companies are moral. They would never do anything wrong. I would encourage you to go check out the universal life lapse issue between the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And I think what you'll find will be pretty astounding. There's actually a really good book out called Lapsed. And this book, you should go read it. It's all about the challenging elements of MetLife and their index universal life, and variable universal life chassis platforms, and all of the lapse issues that they had systemically. And I'm going to actually have the author of that book on this channel. I actually just got it. I'm reading it. It's fantastic, really technical, but it's definitely not like hyper entertaining unless you are infuriated like I am by this and it motivates you, right? And so and you realize the misrepresentation of these products. Now, here's the deal. When I look at this and I say, all right, now what are companies doing? We want to, salespeople are saying, don't put it in a 401k, put it in an IUL. Well, all right, what are our options if we put it in an IUL? Well, they say, well, you're going to have the cap, you're going to have a floor, and that is what it is. Maybe the cap is 12% and the floor is 0. Now there's some people that will go out and will show you and say, well, there's the cap is unlimited. There's no cap. And here's the deal. And then the floor will still be 0. So if you could look at that, like, listen, if this really worked like this with no downside, then the idea of having no cap, right, with all the upside, with still having a 0% floor, if that really worked that way, then I got news for you. I'd be doing this too, and I think it would be the greatest thing in the world. But the problem is, it's not really how it works. There's always risks. There's always fees. There's always little things happening in the background that you're not being told about, right? So there's these things here. There's things called spread charges. Spread charges are important to understand. There's multipliers that come with fees that inject more risk, that make the illustrations look better, that you need to think about. There's no risk rates, which are basically 10-year bond rates that are basically saying if the bond rate is 5%, the no risk rate 5% means the first 5% of the policy performance, you get none of that return. That all goes to the insurance company. So that is a pretty scary number. So you got the spread charges, you got the multipliers, you got the no risk rates, you have the participation rates. I'm gonna write par rates. So the participation rates. These are all areas and levers that life insurance companies can change. You have cost of insurance levels that change, admin fees. Every company is a little bit differently, works a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, on top of the cap rates, you have all these elements that can change and will change according to the insurance company as time goes on. And what's happened is, I've been saying to people, IUL is just a failing financial experiment. And I really, really caution people about putting money in there. Now, I understand the sentiment about the 401k conversation, right? I even agree with the idea that 401ks are not good because taxes are going up. Taxes are in a situation right now where we're in one of the lowest tax rate environments long-term that we've ever been in. If you look at taxes from the beginning of the Federal Reserve in 1913, when the tax code got, I think, instituted, it was like, I think the top tax rate at that point in time was like 7%, but that was only for the highest income earners in the country. And it got all the way up to the 90% range. And then even as recently as 1980, the top marginal tax bracket was 70%, right? So, and that's, by the way, when 401ks were created, right? They were created in 1980. It was actually like late 70s, like 79. But tax rates, when you had 70% was the last year tax rates were at this level. Then Reagan came in and he dropped the tax rates. And they dropped them, and they started going down in the 80s. And then from that point forward, they've gone up and down a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, we've been in the longest low-term tax rate environment that we've ever seen. And if you look at the national debt and you look at everything that's going around us, yeah, I get the idea that why defer taxes in a 401k today when taxes are going nowhere but up and you don't control your money. And the chances are if you're paying 35% in taxes right now and they go up to 50% later, well, guess what? That's going to be painful for you. It's going to be painful for your retirement. And the government has the ability to tax your wealth away from you in your 401k. It doesn't matter how much money you have in there. It's a matter of how much you take home with you and how much it'll impact your lifestyle, right? That's really what matters, is not how much money you have, but what's that money going to do for your lifestyle after taxes on a net basis. And 401ks, you never really know. And the answer to that question, there are too many variables, and it really depends on when you actually plan on retiring. So the idea of IULs is that it's going to solve that problem. But the problem is you're not really solving the problem, because all you're doing is putting the insurance company in charge of it. They have all these levers that they can move that will impact your policy. And if you look at IULs, were created in 1997. And then from 1997 to 2009, there was like virtually no market share. Okay? So if you knew that from 1997 to 2009, there was almost no market share. And the reason is because there wasn't very compelling of a story. And it just was what it was. There was not much going on. But in 2009, the story of upside potential, downside protection came in, but nobody really talked about it. It was just a marketing ploy. So from 2009 to 2022, which was last year, if you just look at the numbers here, these products performed worse and worse and worse and worse and worse every single year. Regulation change had to happen 3 times in 2015, 2020, and 2023 to make it so they wanted to change the way that agents were able to illustrate with Regulation AG 49, 49A, and then 49B. Okay, so if we look at this and we go, all right, why would insurance regulators update trying to make it so they had to rein in the outlandish illustration numbers that were being run that made IULs look so appealing? Because what happens is agents say, they go out and they sell and they say, wow, this IUL illustration is conservative, right? And people view insurance companies as conservative. So that's a story that makes sense to an unwitting consumer, an unknowing consumer, an uneducated consumer about this. And I get it. I fell into the trap. I sold IULs for 4.5 years before I woke up and, understood what I understood. And that's why I have such a passion now about educating people about how this stuff works. And so at the end of the day, this story of IUL illustrations being conservative makes sense, but they're not, because it makes sense because of the background and the history of how insurance companies work. But if you look at these illustration updates in 2015, 2020, and 2023, that was to reduce illustration performance, but then IUL companies just work their way around it, just find workarounds every single time. They just released one in May of 2023, and companies already have workarounds to the illustration updates. So what's going to happen is we're going to have massive overhaul, I think, in the next regulation, because people are having massive problems with their IULs not performing. I'm not saying, by the way, that IULs can't perform, because they can. However, you're looking at about a 5% chance that your IUL actually performs the way that it's sold. And to me, that's the biggest issue, is it's a product that's sold as safe and predictable and simple, yet it's complex and not predictable, and you can lose money. This whole idea about earning uninterrupted compounding because of indexing, you can lose money inside of an IUL. And so one of the things that I want to make sure is really, really, really clear is understanding that when you put your money inside of an IUL policy, you can lose money, because you can't lose money due to market loss, meaning you put your money into the account, it goes into the general fund, they buy an option strategy, and if the option works, then you earn whatever the cap is or whatever the index does, whatever strategy you're participating in. But if the option loses, if the market goes down, then you lost the option budget money. That's really simplistically what happens. And so most people aren't aware that that's the game that they're playing, right? And I've done a lot of other videos that go into great detail on that. I would encourage you to check out my IUL playlist, training playlist, on my Life 180 main page. If you go to youtube.com/@life180, you'll go find it. It'll be, I think it'll be a real big value for you to go through and educate yourself on that. But the bottom line for me is, what I find is that people are trying to utilize life insurance companies for something that life insurance companies don't do well, which is get great returns. If life insurance companies could get you these outlandish returns that seem really attractive and beat the markets and do all this stuff after all the cost of insurance, if insurance companies could do that for you, they'd be doing it for themselves, and they'd be the best investors on the face of the earth. But they can't do that, because I'm just telling you, they can't do it. Like, history has shown and proven that they can't do it. And that's why regulators keep changing the regulations on the illustrations. Companies keep getting around it. Eventually, it's kind of like when the feds were chasing Al Capone back in the day, right? Like, he got away with it for a long time until he didn't. And then hopefully the industry and a lot of clients and policyholders aren't going to wind up in the way that Al Capone did, which is basically, I think, dead at the end of it all, or in jail and not in a good spot. I know a lot of people that have been really, really hurt through IUL policies and investing a lot of money, having surrender charges eat them up, having liquidity issues and market performance issues and policy design issues. And then there's a lot of people that say, well, as long as you design the policies right for minimum death benefit, maximum cash value, you know all the things that are going on, then you're good. But I'm going to tell you, even with that, there's too many elements of life insurance, or of the policy, that are outside of your control. And that's not why I want to utilize a life insurance company. So what I want to do now is I want to take a beat and really think about whatever you're looking to do with your money. And if you're looking to sell to people, I would think about, what problem are you trying to solve? And what I know is that you should never take risk inside of a life insurance contract. And the reason is because, like I said before, life insurance companies are not good at risk. They're good at one thing, which is getting safe returns, getting you the best returns possible with the least amount of risk possible. The problem is, as soon as you give a life insurance company the ability to go use options and buy call options in an index universal life chassis product that's using an annual renewable term chassis, is essentially what it is, you are giving up all the benefit, and you're taking the power of the general fund away from the insurance company on all the benefit that they do really well. And you're getting them to operate not in their sweet spot, right? Like that's the problem. It's like you take a professional baseball player that is amazing and like a silver slugger or whatever like it is, and then you say, all right, just because you're good at baseball, now I want you to go play running back in the NFL. it's not going to correlate, right? Like those skills don't translate. And it's kind of like, some of these hedge fund managers and some of these higher risk asset managers can get big returns, like Ray Dalio. He's not going to manage a general fund the same way, right? Like, and so it's just understanding, that this company is designed and operates a specific way to get a specific result, and their job is to protect your money, get you the best return possible with the least amount of risk possible, which is effectively beating inflation long-term, getting you bond-like returns with muni bond-like tax treatment and money market-like liquidity. And if you could design that and have a portion of your portfolio assigned for that, it's fantastic. Life insurance on its own should never be considered an investment, should never be utilized as an investment, but it should be, I believe, when utilized properly, part of a greater portfolio. The biggest problem with IUL that I see, and there's more to it, but the biggest problem that I see is that it becomes this zero-sum game, all encapsulating, put all your money into one product. You got people out there like Doug Andrew and his laser fund thing that will say you should just put as much of your money into this policy as possible, and that will solve all your problems. You're going to have all your problems solved. You're going to have all this tax-free income at retirement, and nothing could be further from the truth. If you do that, you're going to wind up in a world of hurt, and you're going to end up at retirement with way less than you anticipated, and your financial future is going to be potentially in ruin. And so just really consider that when you contemplate your options. Now, how do you utilize life insurance? How can you actually utilize life insurance companies to help you? I love properly designed whole life insurance, because instead of being a profit center for the company like you are with IUL, you are actually a business partner with the company, getting paid a dividend. As the insurance company is more and more successful, you participate in that success through a dividend. Now, it's not sexy, it's not great, but it's exactly what I said. It's going to get you bond-like returns, which, let's face it, there's a place in our life that we need safe money that has muni-like tax treatment, which is pretty darn cool, and then money market-like liquidity. Think about that. If you could have high yield savings account right now, which a lot of people are like, oh, high yield savings account, why would I put money in a whole life insurance earning 5% when I could just put my money into a high yield savings account? It's because high yield savings account 2 years ago were earning less than 1%, right? Now they're earning 5%, but where are they going to be 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now? 2 years ago, whole life insurance was still earning 5%. Now high yield savings accounts are absolutely competitive on a short-term basis, but you don't solve long-term problems with short-term thinking, right? And that's the biggest thing that I try to get people to really think about. Think about your long-term planning. Think about, from a tax-free income at retirement perspective, not utilizing life insurance for income every single year, but utilizing life insurance as part of a grander strategy, a bigger strategy, utilizing real estate, utilizing other investments, whether it's business or whether it's stocks or what other ever kind of investments that you had going on, and utilizing a portion of your retirement income as a volatility buffer inside of life insurance. So my suggestion to everybody is have between 4 and 6 years of income in cash value in your whole life policy, and utilize that as a volatility buffer. That way, on years where the market is down, you can leverage the cash value inside of your life insurance policy as income to make it so you don't have to liquidate negatively performing assets for income, and you allow those other assets to recover, because the markets always recover. The worst thing we can do is take income from them in retirement, which most of the time people are forced to do. And that's unfortunately what drags a lot of people down. But if you had this pile of money here in a whole life policy that allowed you to take money from that as income on a tax-free basis and allowed your other assets to recover on down years, now your whole portfolio performs at a much more amplified level, and you're able to get more leverage and more length without taking more risk out of your entire retirement portfolio. And that's where the magic comes, as far as life insurance goes. Life insurance companies are great, but IUL is not all it's cracked up to be. So if you've been looking at it, I think probably a lot of the story that you've been told about it is appealing to you, and I resonate with a lot of it. Like when I listen to Doug Andrew, I agree with 95% of the things the guy says. The problem is the execution of the product is just a bit misleading, for instance, on what he's talking about. And so When I'm talking about life insurance, I'm talking about whole life insurance leveraged as part of a bigger plan, and understanding, how I plan on utilizing that, and knowing ahead of time how I plan on using that as part of a bigger strategy with my other assets in retirement. Not to mention, I can utilize it along the way as an emergency fund, as a college planning fund for my kids, or anything of that nature. A lot of different ways that I can do it as a business reserve, capital reserve account, anything of that nature. A lot of flexibility, a lot of strength. It's one of the most powerful, flexible assets that most people are not aware of. But like anything else in the world, there's not good or bad. It's just, is it good or bad for what you're looking to accomplish? IUL is not a bad asset if you're utilizing it for what it was designed to do. And when IUL was created in 1997, it was not created for the purpose of tax-free income. That was a marketing scheme that was created much later in the life cycle of IUL to market it and sell it because it wasn't getting any market traction. Now, from a marketing perspective, the story of upside potential and downside protection was obviously amazing, and it's made IUL one of the most popular products in the world, but it's also been one of the more, probably the most disappointing product in the world when you really break it down. So that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We've got a thing called Rescue My IUL. You can go to, if you have an IUL, you want one evaluated, I would go to rescuemyiul.com. You can enter all your information. My team will do an evaluation for you, give you a complete breakdown, because unfortunately we see these things, the wheels coming off them every single day. It just really tears me up. We're really passionate about helping guide people to what the best solutions are for you in your situation, and we'll give you the best guidance forward on whatever that looks like for you. Whether that's another policy, whether it's just hanging tight, getting through surrender periods with what you have going on. It's different for everybody. There's a lot of different variables that play into that. If you're looking for a clarity call because you've been interested in getting a policy, it's all about education here. I just want to have you sit down with one of my coaches, have all of your questions answered. It's not a sales call. It's designed to educate you so you can ask the questions, figure out, what does this look like in your life? Maybe you've been watching this video, maybe you've watched 5 other videos, and you just have some questions that still yet haven't been answered. That clarity call, you're going to be able to come with the questions, and one of the certified pros on my team is going to be able to help you answer those questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section below. If you don't want to get on a call, I do my best to respond and engage with every single comment on my channel. I do that personally. I do not outsource that because I don't think anybody else will be able to do it like I do it. So that is it. Hopefully you found value in this video. If you did, like it, share it, subscribe, get it out there to people, hit the bell that way you're notified, and hopefully you found value in this to at least do that. And that's it. Till next video. Have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.